Over the years, we've seen all sorts of challenges in Bee Swarm. First it was the Ant Challenge in 2018, then the Stick Bug Challenge in 2019, then a couple years later in 2022, the Robo Bear Challenge. But none of these challenges can even compare to the Retro Swarm Challenge. When it released in 2024 as part of the Roblox Classic event, players didn't think much of it. But as they would soon come to find out, Retro was unlike anything we had ever seen before. This is the world record progression of the Retro Swarm Challenge. To understand the history of records, you must first understand 1. How the challenge works, and 2. How scoring works. So let's get into that. Retro Challenge is a 4-player tower defense game mode which is split up into rounds. Each round lasts 2 minutes and spawns a fairly random combination of zombies and slimes. The level of these mobs will increase the further you are into the challenge, with the slimes becoming faster the higher level they are. The goal is to kill the mobs before they can reach the hives, and if you fail to do so, for each mob that reaches the hives, you'll lose a heart, which you have 9 of. The challenge ends either when you finish 30 rounds or run out of lives. Additionally, there's a currency in the challenge called bricks, which drop from killing mobs, can be bought for honey, or drop from brick blooms, which are flowers that travel from field to field, leveling up whenever you break them. Higher levels having more health and dropping more bricks. The main use of bricks is to buy bees, but they are also used to buy weapons, tools, or food. There are 4 foods, and all of them offer very strong buffs. Now, how does scoring work? Basically, for every round that you complete, you'll receive 100,000 points. All the way from rounds 1 to 30, you get the same. Additionally, you get exactly 10 points for every brick you collect. Let's take a look at this run as an example. We completed 25 rounds, accounting for 2.5 million score, and we collected 23,672 bricks, which accounts for another 236,000 score. Damage dealt also gives you score, but yeah, not much. Now that you guys finally understand everything, we can start to break down the records. It's day 1 of Retro being out, so let's watch a day 1 Retro run. Back then, we didn't really know what we were doing yet, not really understanding scoring or how the challenge worked, so we kind of just ran around, often ignoring blooms, and putting a lot more effort into attacking than we needed to. For example, we started pre-walling on round 18. Pre-walling is a technique where you place walls before the round to get a head start on stopping any slimes which come out. It'll be a technique used in every single run from this point on, but probably better than we do it here, since we started pre-walling with 40 seconds left until the next round, not knowing walls despawn after 30. Somehow though, we managed to fight all the way to round 22, where we had eventually failed, closing out the run with about 2.2 million score. Though, this isn't even close to the day 1 record, since I was able to find this screenshot showing scores of 2.6 million from L Lane, Alex Sonia Bro, Catch, Brian Maps, and M, with Russian player L Lane being in the lead with a score of 2,617,000. And according to him, this was a run which beat round 25 and got about 11k bricks. But this record would not last long. Turns out, Retro Swarm had a little bit of a problem. Now, this wasn't a problem with mob spawning or the blooms or anything like that. Rather, it was a problem with this. Just this. Basically, in Retro, there's a tool called the trowel. What it does is it places walls, which is important because it slows down the slimes. But these walls have a couple problems. They break, they take a long time to set up, and they only last for 30 seconds, just to name a few. So, players found another way. Please welcome Banana Games from a year and a half ago to explain what the bug is and save me an hour of editing.
I will actually demonstrate how you do this new glitch with the classic sword, since I obviously don't have enough right now, but it's literally the same for every item. But let me buy it over here. And then let's say you do actually have Illumina right now. All your team is actually good. What you actually want to do is you basically want to drop it on the floor all around over here. I'll show you a clip in a second of how that will look like. And you do want to press backspace on your keyboard like this and jump and then release the sword. And as you guys see there, the sword basically drops and all the slimes are getting caught on it, so they take damage, but also they actually will freeze once you have enough swords on there.
Thank you, Banana. Alright, you heard the guy. By simply dropping your sword onto the ground, you now had a permanent wall that also did damage, and you could have infinite of. Using this bug, a player named Ethan Olodge and his team would become the first people to finish round 30. As you can see, basically everything was stunned and just not moving. This is because they placed so many swords on the ground that the server could just not handle it. I'll admit it's a cool video, but not too long after this was recorded, Onnit would patch the bug and reset leaderboards. So I'm not going to count it in the history, and instead, we're going to have to wait a month for the next record. Thursday, the 29th of August. That's right, this is Name Names Round 26 run. Onnit's team was Cool Doodles, Eternal Lightning, and Chill Golden Steel. Their team comp included 1 red hive, 2 attack hives, and a blue, placing strong emphasis on score from rounds rather than score from bricks, since blooms won't be as good with a second attack hive. Let's take a look at the run itself. Each round, since Name was the defender, he'd immediately go up and kill the mobs, and then usually pick up some bricks or try to do a scorch. The rest of his team would just focus on doing blooms, although they clearly weren't that experienced since they kept neglecting the lower level bloom that spawns to instead focus on the big one. And after hitting 2 level 22 blooms and 2 level 16 blooms, they kinda gave up on blooms altogether and just started to go for honey. Additionally, none of their hives had a fuzzy bee, which is just a major nerf to pollen collection, but like I said, strats weren't as developed back then. And remember, that's not where this team shines. They have 2 attack hives and they're gonna use them. Starting round 21, they all pre-wall, and oh boy, look at those pre-walls. Then, since they have so much attack, they just completely slime the mobs. Skipping around 24, they get a lot of slimes and almost leak one, but manage to come out with 10 hearts, and then immediately start walling. At the start of round 25, a level 29 spawns, which they can't exactly kill, but they decide to leak, which should be completely fine as long as they don't get extremely unlucky. And it looks like they should be able to, because the rest of the round is very easy. After killing the horded zombies, it's time for them to play round 26. Say it with me. Not even close. And yeah, they died on 27. Wow. 2.7 million. Pretty good score. Although, the bricks leave a lot of room for improvement. Improvement which would take 4 months to happen. So, let's jump 4 months ahead. On the day of November 25th, the team of Joseph, Trianli, Jax, and Vapanda would break the record. This time, we only have a video of the later rounds, but we can still learn some things based on what we see in them. First of all, from this frame here and the lack of vectors in this hive, we can conclude they ran the same team comp of 2 attacks, a red, and a blue. And from this running around, we can see their blooms were actually a little worse than the one in Name Names run, but overall, everyone made more honey. Now, onto the attacking part. Obviously, they had great pre-walls just like Name's team. Up until round 24, they basically had no problem at all, but on 24, 2 level 28 slimes would spawn, and despite their best efforts, they had to leak both due to not knowing how to slow them down. And on 25, the round started with zombies. It didn't end up mattering here, but generally having zombies spawn first is worse because they destroy the pre-walls before they can be used to stop the slimes. But other than that, the round went just fine. Starting round 26, we can see Trianli making sure he starts the round with precision, which isn't something Name did and would help a lot with attack. Like they got on 25, 26 was also a zombie round, but they got pretty lucky with the spawns and were able to make it through while only leaking 2 27s and 3 30s. And after killing the zombie horde, they die on 27. In the end, this run closed out with 3 out of 4 players managing to beat Name's score, with Joseph being in the lead, getting the first ever 2.8 million. Once again, it's a 4-month gap until the next record, this time done by basically the same team, but with Zyroth instead of Joseph. And very excitingly, this run is the premiere of an entirely new strategy. I'm going to be dubbing it the Red Hive Push. Basically, at this point in time, we're just not able to beat rounds further than 26. So now, all the improvements are going to come from getting more bricks. And think back to the ways of getting bricks: blooms, mobs, and honey. What type of hive makes the most honey? That's right, a red hive. So the Red Hive Push is basically the idea of having one person defend, 2 people do blooms, and then the 4th player, a red hive, just sit in red brick the entire time making honey, picking up the brick from the blooms when available, and only helping defend near the end. And near the end of the run, they're going to be dumping all their honey into buying bricks, which is going to help them get a lot more than we've ever seen. And if we compare the honey from the last run to this one, yeah, pretty big difference. You'll get to see the difference in scores soon, but first, let's go over their defense. Starting off, since the last run, attack hives have gotten significantly better, to the point where now the attack hive is able to solo a round or two later, letting the other players have more time to get bricks before needing to defend. In this run, that round being 21. Anyways, this team managed to cruise straight to 25 before anything went wrong, which in this case was a big 29 spawning right at the start. You might think that they're going to leak this, but then they do this. What is that? Why are they doing that? This is called a mid-wall, and it's how you stop fast slimes. The best way I can explain it is that when you place a wall, it takes a little time to build, and it starts building from the bottom. This means that if a slime has a lot of momentum, it will just roll over the wall while it's being built, so it will do nothing. But if you mid-wall it, it can't roll over the wall. Additionally, as the wall builds, the slime will remain in place a little longer. So this can be used to stop fast slime's momentum and help your bees do way more damage. So that's mid-wall, an extremely useful piece of tech. And as you've seen while I've been explaining that, they're now ready to do round 26 after killing the zombies, of course. Start of 26, they get a big zombie, which means I have time to point out something else. Look at this. Trianli has the trowel in his hotbar, and sometimes swaps off of it to convert his flames to dark, which will drastically increase his bee's damage, helping him kill the higher levels. Speaking of higher levels, they leak a bunch, but still beat the round because they had so many hearts going into it, and then they die on 27. As we see in the scores, the Red Hive push strategy led Zyroth to getting a massive new record of 27,731 bricks compared to Joseph's 21,600. This time, we wouldn't have to wait nearly as long for the next record, only 2 months. Now, I don't have a video of this run or the next couple runs, but luckily, there's not many strategy developments and I can still tell you a few things about them. So let me set the scene. Only very recently had players started to care more about retro. It honestly is a very boring game mode and most people just don't enjoy playing it. But there were a few members of the community, known as SBS and Zyroth, who cared just enough to host tournaments. The second of these tournaments was the weekend of May 23rd, and a new record was set, 2.88 million, set by Hero vs. Muffin, Jax, Stinger Bossy, and Longa. The main difference in this run is that they didn't use the Red Hive push strategy, and instead, Hero vs. Muffin was an attack hive. But between better blooms from having an RBC hive instead of a second red hive, and being able to make good honey while still defending, Hero was able to collect just 260 more bricks than Zyroth did. But despite being world record, this run didn't even win the tournament, because on the same day, the team of Trianli, Jay, Pawpaw, and Keechal was able to score the first ever 2.9 million, breaking the 30k brick barrier, and doing so with the Red Hive push strategy. Following the tournament, players from different teams decided to band together and make a super team. This team was Hero vs. Muffin, Jay, Ari, and the True Blue Hive Board. Their goal was to set an unbeatable score, and on the 26th, that's exactly what they do. But as you're about to see, upon claiming their hives, an RBC run ends and they get the honey from it. This is known as RBC glitch, and it's actually very easy to do. Step 1, start an RBC run. Step 2, go into the Retro Hub. That's it. By abusing the reward system for failing an RBC run, we can smuggle the honey it gives into Retro and start the run with an extra 5,200 bricks, which translates into a pretty significant progression boost. Moving on from that into the run, we can see Hero often defends since he's an attack hive, then immediately rushes to Red Brick to try and make honey. Meanwhile, his teammates, one of which being Jay, the best Retro bloomer at the time, just focused on doing blooms. We can see by round 18, they already had a level 23 and a level 24 almost broken, and by round 21, they'd have 2 level 25s broken and mixed. Now onto the defending part. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that Ari was playing on Fragile Silence's account, which was the strongest attack hive in the game, and we plan to make full use of it. We absolutely breezed through 23, and at the start of 25, we weren't even pre-walling, rather all sitting in Red Brick trying to break a 26. At the start of 25, a 29 spawns, and usually this would mean a leak, but due to mid-walling and having 2 full 22 attack hives, we were able to nuke it, though we do end up leaking 2 near the end of the round. Moving on to 26, Jay breaks the world's first level 26 bloom. Funny how that works out. I'll just let the start of the round play out. Yeah, so we got extremely lucky and managed to leak none on round 26. Heading into 27 with 7 hearts left, could this happen? Yeah, we managed to get even luckier on 27 than we did on 26, leaking only 1 slime. Could 28 happen though? Nope, although we came close and finished off the run with a massive record of 2.989 million. But remember, we used RBC glitch, meaning this is a separate category and the true record still remains Trianley's 2.901 mil from 3 days ago, but it wouldn't stay like that for too long. Quick note, the next couple of records all don't have video, but it's okay since the score is only increasing by Blooms being a little bit better and the Red Hive making a little more honey. The first of this wave of records comes from Pincode's team on July 27th, raising it to a 2.908 million, which will be raised once again 2 months later with a 2.93 by Bruno. Then, after another month and another SBS Retro tournament, Trianley's team raised that score to 2.946 million. What happened in the week following this and the day after I started making this video can only be described as poetic. That is where the record stands today. Thanks for watching.